Chronicles of the Origin System, Excerpt 43, Protea. She was not born, she was constructed. A century bound in servitude, a guardian to a man who dreamt of ascension. The Orchid crafted her, but she belonged to Parvos Granum. His blade, his shield, his eternal sentinel. But faith is brittle, and betrayal festers. The Corpus Board of Directors, driven by greed, by ambition, by the ceaseless hunger for dominion, sought to sever their founder's grip on power. A single moment, a single act of treason, the sabotage of a ship's void drive, a death sentence. Yet time did not yield to them. As the ship was torn apart, as reality fractured, she acted. Protea, the guardian. Protea the loyal. Protea the damned. She wielded time itself, wrapping Parvos Granum in an eternal moment, a prison without end. And with him, she too was lost, locked within the silent, endless currents of the void. Decades passed, then centuries. The Corpus Empire rotted in his absence. Power fractured. The board paralyzed. Their greed made them blind, but their desperation made them fools. 7 deadlocked votes, 7 failures. The Corpus needed a leader. Nephanio, the treacherous wretch, invoked the deadlock protocol, a desperate, violent search for the founder. He slaughtered the Solaris like cattle, casting them into the void in a perverse experiment to breach its depths, all in pursuit of a legacy that was never his to claim. But the void does not forgive, and when the Tenno came, drawn by the echoes of the lost, they found her. Not the guardian, not the protector, but the wraith. Protea was no longer a warframe. She had become something else, an echo caught in the grinding gears of eternity, a specter of relentless repetition. Her body trapped in an unbroken cycle of war, playing out the same battle, the same slaughter, over and over. When Parvos Granum emerged from the rift, it was not with gratitude, it was with purpose. The founder had not been found, he had allowed himself to be summoned. For his great return, he needed an army. Protea, his eternal sentinel, turned her weapons on the Tenno, on Nephanio's fleet, on all who dared disturb the cycle. Reality bent to her command, time fractured. A legion of errant specters rose at her command. For the first time in his miserable life, Nephanio understood fear. And so he did what cowards do. He bargained. He begged. A truce with the Solaris, a gift to the Tenno, the Zorus, forged with Granum's own spectre particle theory. A key to end the cycle, a key to undo Protea's torment. And so the Tenno returned, armed with the only blade that could break through a prison of time. They carved through the endless repetitions of her suffering, struck down like the echoes of her past, and in a single moment, time collapsed. The Protea spectre fell, and the woman who had been ripped from time itself was finally freed. But freedom is a hollow thing. The founder still walked, his ambitions unfaltering. The Corpus still thrived on the blood of the weak. The Solaris still suffered beneath the boot of a tyrant. And Protea, she remains, a weapon without a master, a warrior without a time to call her own. But time is still hers to command, and the war is far from over. Protea, the chronomancer.
Oh hey dreamers, fancy meeting you here. Today we are talking about a warframe that defies the ages. She is the architect of war, the master of time, and the sentinel of a false god. This is Protea, and she is not just a weapon, she is a force, bending reality to her will, turning seconds into eternity and devastation into inevitability. In this build, we push her beyond every limit, embracing every aspect of her power, unrelenting firepower, infinite sustain, and a control over time so absolute that even death itself becomes nothing more than a delay. This is our endgame Protea, engineered for domination. Welcome to the cycle, dreamers, where war is waged, reversed, and repeated until nothing remains. First off, I want to mention that inverting your Protea abilities will save you from so many headaches. Go to Options. Under the keyboard, mouse, or controller section, you can click into Invert Tap Hold Abilities. Head down to Protea and set your abilities to inverted. This will invert your grenade fan to shield gate you on the tap and invert your Temporal Anchor to cancel on the tap, which we will go into more details later. With that said, let's talk about our abilities and synergies, the aspect of time. Passive. Every 4th power cast is granted plus 100% ability strength. Now let's be real, this is one of the best passives in Warframe. Plus 100% ability strength for free? Dagoth's Orb Magnification and Wukong's extra lives are nice, but this single-handedly enables 2-tick armor stripping, scaling damage, and insane synergy across all abilities. By pairing Protea's passive with a single Crimson Tauforge shard for strength, we can strip all armor in just 2 ticks with her augment Temporal Erosion. This means Grenade Fan, Blaze Artillery, or both, will absolutely obliterate enemy defenses instantly. Now let's break down each ability and why this build takes Protea from a level 1 goon into a level 99 mob boss. Ability 1, Grenade Fan. Throw out 3 grenades in an arc. Tap for Shrapnel Vortex, which creates a slashing, staggering swirl of shrapnel. Hold for shield satellites, and Protea will reconfigure 3 grenades to work as overcharging shield generators, protecting her, her allies, and companions. When shields break, a satellite is destroyed to extend the period of invulnerability. Grenade Fan's Shrapnel Vortex, originally the tap and now the hold, sends out 3 grenades that deal a radial slash damage of 500 base damage, which is moddable by strength, with a 33% status chance towards enemies within 5 meters, which is moddable by range, for 13 seconds, which once again is moddable by duration. Good lord, how much can we mod this damn ability? Shrapnel Vortex can force stagger enemies caught within it and is unaffected by line of sight. So here's the math. Our damage per grenade equals base damage times 1 plus ability strength mods, with total slash proc damage equaling 0.35 times damage per grenade times 33% chance times 6 seconds. Total damage per tick equals 3 grenades times damage per grenade plus total slash proc damage. So if we apply this equation without the passive, which sits at 318% power strength, our damage per grenade per second equals 500 times 3.18. Our damage per grenade per second equals 1,590. Our total slash proc damage equals 0.35 times 1,590 times 33% times 6. Total slash proc damage equals 1,101.87. So our total slash damage per second equals 3 times 1,590 plus 1,101.87. So our total damage per second equals 8,075.61. Now if we apply our passive, which gives us 418% power strength, our damage per grenade per second equals 500 times 4.18. Our damage per grenade per second equals 2,090. Total slash proc damage equals 0.35 times 2,090 times 33% times 6. Our total slash proc damage equals 1,448.37. And our total damage per second equals 3 times 2,090 plus 1,448.37. So our grand total damage per second equals 10,615.11. Grenade Fan Shield Satellite, originally the hold, now the tap, sends out 4 grenades per throw that instantly restore 500 shield, which is moddable by strength, upon contact with yourself or an ally within 5 meters. Here we go again, which is moddable by range for 13 seconds, which is also moddable by duration. The shield satellite will continue to regenerate shields for 50 shield per second. Lord help us, which is also moddable by strength. When our shields break with the shield satellite attached, we gain a ×2 timer on our shield gate. The minimum shield and overshield needed to cap out the shield gate of 2.5 seconds is 1150. With our shield satellite active, our shield sits at 1755. So enjoy the 5 seconds of God mode between each cast. Shh. The rule of Warframe is we don't talk about toxin. So here's the math for all you cute little geeks that like numbers. Our shield per grenade equals base initial shield times 1 plus ability strength, and our shield regen per second equals base shield regen times 1 plus ability strength. Now if we apply this without the passive, our shield per grenade equals 500 times 3.18. Our shield per grenade thus equals 1590. Our shield regen per second equals 50 times 3.18. So our shield regen per second is 159 a second. Now if we break down the numbers now applying the passive, keep in mind we are now sitting at a tasty 418% power strength. Our shield per grenade equals 500 times 4.18. So our shield per grenade equals 2090. Our shield regen per second equals 50 times 4.18, giving us a shield regen per second of 209 shields per second. This is moddable by duration, range, and strength. Ability 2, Blaze Artillery. Deploy an artillery unit to blast plasma charges at enemies it faces. Each enemy hit increases the power of subsequent plasma attacks. Blaze Artillery. I mean, holy shit. Imagine Zaku, but with heat inherent. And now imagine Zaku on freaking steroids. That is Blaze Artillery, and it is so strong. Yep, we're doing it again. But this time, we're doing it with a twist. Fucking Red Sonja type shit. Now with the Augment Temporal Artillery, this little guy is following us all the time, which we will touch upon again shortly. The turrets each have an infinite body punch through and can lock onto targets within a 130-degree field of view. The turrets have a base damage of 500, which is moddable by strength, and have a guaranteed heat status proc per shot. Additionally, the turret multiplies its damage based on the number of shots landed on the enemies, and can stack multiple times per shot if multiple enemies are shot at the same time. Moreover, the turret lasts only 3 seconds, which is moddable by duration, and fires at enemies within 30 meters, which is moddable by range. Last but not least, the turret fires 3 times per second, so the actual DPS is 3x what's listed on the ability screen. The Augment Temporal Artillery may seem like a nerf, but how many times do you have all 3 turrets spilling into the 20x multiplier and beyond at that same time? This augment not only allows us to snapshot our 100% power strength passive, but it also pauses the duration of that snapshotted turret while the Temporal Anchor is active. Combining all these variables along with Archon Vitality brings us to what we see in math. So here's the goofy math. Blaze artillery damage equals base damage times 1 plus ability strength mods times number of hits. The blaze artillery damage per second equals blaze turret damage times 3. Blaze artillery heat status damage per second equals 0.5 times blaze turret damage times 2, where the times 2 comes from Archon Vitality. This accounts for each stack of heat. Our total damage per second equals blaze artillery damage per second plus 3 times blaze artillery heat status damage per second times number of previous heat procs, testing for just 5 seconds of artillery shots. Now if we apply this without the passive at times 20 artillery, our blaze artillery damage equals 500 times 3.18 times 20. Our blaze artillery damage equals 31,800. Our blaze artillery damage per second equals 31,800 times 3. Our blaze artillery damage per second thus equals 95,400 per second. Our blaze artillery heat status damage per second equals 0.5 times 31,800 times 2. Our total damage per second equals 95,400 plus 3 times 31,800 times 5 minus 1 times 3. Our total damage per second equals 95,400 plus 95,400 times 12. So total damage per second equals 95,400 plus 1,144,800. So our grand total damage per second without our passive equals 1,240,200 at the 5th second of temporal anchored blaze artillery. This value will continue to scale, so long as the target is alive to see it. Now if we apply the passive times 20 multiplier, keep in mind we are at 418% power strength. So our blaze artillery damage equals 500 times 4.18 times 20. Our blaze artillery damage equals 41,800. Our blaze artillery damage per second equals 41,800 times 3. So our blaze artillery damage per second equals 125,400 per second. Now our blaze artillery heat status damage per second equals 0.5 times 41,800 times 2. Our total damage per second equals 125,400 plus 3 times 41,800 times 5 minus 1 times 3. So our total damage per second equals 125,400 plus 125,400 times 12. Our total damage per second equals 125,400 plus 1,504,800. So now our total damage per second with the passive applied equals 1,630,200 at the 5th second of temporal anchored blaze artillery. This isn't even mentioning the other 2 turrets that can be active alongside the main turret. This is moddable by duration, range, and strength. Ability 3, Dispensary. Deploy a device that generates 3 pickups after a short delay: empowered health orbs, universal ammo packs, and energy orbs. Dispensary and Equilibrium go together like peanut butter and Grenier Genocide. Dispensary provides a consistent regeneration of health orbs, energy orbs, and universal ammo. Each of these drops are provided every 2 seconds in a rotation. If a health orb drops, it'll take 6 seconds to refresh its same drop. Strangely enough, Dispensary starts with 25 seconds at 100% duration, rounding it down to 24 seconds worth of drops, which is moddable by duration. Dispensary drops have a base 25% chance to double drop, which can be modded by strength. So here's the math, and I promise, this is not psychotic like the first 2 abilities. Double drops equal 25% times 1 plus ability strength mods. Now apply that without the passive. Our double drops equal 25% times 3.18. So our double drops equal 79.5% chance to double drop each pickup. Now, if we apply the passive, Our double drops equal 104.5% chance to double drop each pickup. Not only do we get slash grenades, a free 5-second shield gate, and a scaling turret, but we also get free sustain on energy and ammo. Now I know the dev team was on some nut-ass shit when they threw Eternalism at us, but I'm convinced there was some loud groans going around when they drafted this warframe. Ability 4, Temporal Anchor. Drop a Temporal Anchor, which after a short duration, Protea rewinds to trigger a Temporal Implosion. Implosion damage increases based on damage dealt between Anchor drop and rewind. Everything lost or expended in that time is returned. Dying while Anchor is active rewinds Protea to the Anchor, saving her. Protea is knocked down and the Anchor vanishes. Banger after banger after banger. Protea just has it all. I mean, we all took away her 4th ability when she first dropped like absolute peasants, but Temporal Anchor is the insurance plan that didn't end in a Luigi scandal. When activating Temporal Anchor, we begin with 3 seconds of invulnerability. Then for every second the ability is active, we record 25% of all the damage done by Protea, which is moddable by strength. The ability remains active for 8 seconds, which is moddable by duration, and when the timer ends, Protea explodes in a 15-meter radius and can be, yep, you guessed it, modded by range. Alright, this one's going to take a minute, so have a seat. When you activate Temporal Anchor, you snapshot your health, shields, energy, ammo, and combo. When the timer is running, we can tap, which is now hold, our 4 ability again to activate our implosion, or we hold, now tap, 4 to turn off the timer. After the timer resets and you opt to activate the ability, it will bring you back to the resources you were at when you began the 4th ability. If you die while the 4th is active, you don't. Instead, you will also be brought back to your original position, but with a forced knockdown and 5% of your max HP. Whew. Enough about all that. Psych! Here's the math. Implosion damage equals 25% times 1 plus ability strength mods times damage dealt. Now if we apply this without the passive, our implosion damage equation is 25% times 3.18 times the damage dealt. So our implosion damage equals 79.5% of our damage dealt. Now if we apply it with our passive, bringing our strength to 418%, our sick nasty grand total implosion damage equals 104.5% of damage dealt. Man, and there are still augments on this build. Temporal Erosion is an augment for Temporal Anchor that makes Protea's grenades and artillery armor strip. The armor strip comes at a base of 25% maximum armor per instance of damage. Yes, it's moddable by strength. I know. Now with Corrosive Projection on, we only need to hit a total of 82% armor strip before we achieve a full armor strip. At 318% power strength, we can knock out 31% of armor every damage tick, meaning at 3 ticks, we pass the 82% and fully strip the target. Now with the passive active for 418% strength, we are stripping 41% of armor every damage tick. So 2 ticks exactly hits the 82% we need to 2-tick armor strip. I mean, holy shit. The math is math. Now our trusty disclaimer, this is moddable by duration, range, and strength. So let's talk about our playstyle rotation. Destroying the past, unlocking the future. Protea's passive is incredibly important for stacking value onto our abilities. With this knowledge, know that the first ability is irrelevant for the need of the passive, and it can instead contribute to get us to activating our 100% strength to other abilities. So step 1, always have Dispensary active and buffed by the passive, if you can stack it. Step 2, when planning to place your first turret, it is highly recommended that we stack the passive to plus 100% and snapshot the turret. Step 3, immediately after snapshotting our turret, activate the 4th ability and parade that turret on an infinite timer like you just obliterated Parvos Granum's old dumbass yourself. When the timer hits close to 0, you will hear a clock ticking audio. Hear that? We can tap the 4th to quickly turn it off, then tap it again to turn it right back on. You will barely lose any of your turret's multiplier, and it will then keep lighting up enemies like that doofus redneck neighbor you have on the 4th of July. Smelly ass mullet wearing bitch. Step 4, always strive to keep up survivability. We have both the shield grenades and the Temporal Anchor. Grenade Fan shields will give us a 5-second shield gate if it gets broken, and Temporal Anchor will stop us from dying when we would otherwise if it wasn't active. Make sure to keep Grenade Fan active as you play, and it will always keep you alive. Yes, you're immortal, kiddo. Remember? Now let's go over our Archon Shards, crystalline power of temporal proportions. We will install 1 Crimson Tau Forge shard, giving us an extra 15% ability strength. This will ensure we achieve a 2-proc armor strip on our Temporal Erosion Augment, affecting Grenade Fan and Blaze Artillery with the passive activate. 3 Crimson Tau Forge shards will give us a plus 15% ability duration each for a total of 45%. Using these shards will allow us to lock in a 200% ability duration, maximizing our Blaze Artillery timer to its fullest extent without sacrificing any of our other stats. We also boast a 15-second Temporal Anchor ability, allowing us to absorb an absolute fuck ton of damage to then knock our enemies back into the old war, where their mothers could still put them in the little spoon position. Our last slot will take one Amber Tau Forge shard, which increases our casting speed by 37.5%. This shard is simple. Cast abilities faster. We want it, you need it, court adjourned, case settled. Yeah, baby. Now let's talk about our arsenal, Articles of Temporal Devastation. Now we are going to specifically talk about 3 weapons in particular, but we will mention a few others that work very well with our build. Primary weapons. The Felarx. The Felarx is capable of incredible things. Being part of the first series of Incarnons, the Felarx has withstood the test of time over and over again. With the multiplicative gun CO and stacking fire rate bonus on the evolutions, this weapon is by no means worth sleeping on. In the hands of a well-read tenno, we can exploit the fire rate bonus from evolution 2. Swapping to Incarnon instead of reloading the weapon will continue to stack fire rate up to 99x. And remember, don't tell them I told you though. Primary weapons of note. The Boar Prime. In my opinion, the strongest shotgun in the game. It's strong on its own, and in Incarnon form, it can wipe rooms similar to the Torrid. When fighting a strong enemy head-on, stay in regular mode or go Incarnon for the heat procs. And when killing trash mobs, definitely go Incarnon for that beam to chain enemies, because Protea and the Boar both value heat procs. Snapshotting heat inherited from the Boar would exponentially improve the turrets. The Burston Prime. The tried and true weapon of level cap cascades. The Burston is the ultimate weapon of attrition when handling even the toughest of enemies. I've never seen an Incarnon so efficient with charge up to ammo ratio. This is a true beauty. Secondary weapons. The Onos. Now let's talk about an Incarnon where we won't actually care to use the Incarnon. Wait, what the fuck? Why wouldn't we use the Incarnon, you doofus? Well, both multiplicative condition overload and multiplicative crit with acuity. Imagine the strongest Incarn-off weapon in the game. The Onos on Protea is a funny pair, but it serves such an amazing purpose when dealing with high priority targets, similar to the Epitaph. The best part is that the Onos can do all of this on the primary fire. The Dual Toxycyst. The Toxycyst Incarnon Genesis transforms the standard Dual Toxycyst pistols into formidable automatic weapons with enhanced capabilities. Upon installing the Incarnon Genesis, landing weak point hits charge the transmutation gauge. Activating the alternate fire unleashes the Incarnon form, granting full auto fire, increased critical and status chances, and shots that ricochet to nearby enemies. This mode excels in crowd control, efficiently dispatching groups of enemies. To maximize effectiveness, focus on headshots to maintain the frenzy buff, which boosts fire rate, ammo efficiency, and toxin damage. For optimal performance, consider mods that enhance critical damage, fire rate, and status effects. The Furis, the ultimate underdog of warframe secondaries. For those of us who have played the game long enough to get all of the Incarnons, we have finally woken up to this weapon. This thing is the gun. Imagine a 777 amp, but give it as an Incarnon. That is the Furis Incarnon. The Furis is probably the best weapon for heat inherit. It can stack its own primers and benefit from both crit and status. Protea plus the Furis is actually a match made in heaven. The Ocucor. The Ocucor has a great trash clear potential when combined with the Augment. Stacking kills with this beams, you can continue to add beams, critical chance, and status chance. With Protea's Dispensary, we can always have an upkeep of ammo for the weapon, and Sentient Surge will profit from the huge ammo supply. Melee weapons. The Okina Prime. The Okina Incarnon form was among the most recent additions to the Incarnon Genesis pool. You can activate Incarnon form at 5x combo and the weapon will summon spectral blades that revolve around the player. Combined with the passive for pause combo duration on other weapons, you can activate the Okina and take advantage of the primary weapons or ability spamming while the Okina still does damage. The Okinas came out with Protea's Prime access, and this can be such a fun synergy with any warframe that prioritizes primary and secondary weapons. The Hate. If you thought the Scion was cool, wait until you try this sucker. The Hate Incarnon form shoots beams that fuck you at crowds of enemies, causing fire status effects and dealing massive damage. Whether Roar is subsumed or you just love the weapon, that Hate Augment goes absolutely crazy. You can stack several multiplicative damage numbers together to wreck all hell. The Harmony. If you're using the Furis, Boar, or Protea's turrets on disruption targets, you'll probably want to expedite the kill sooner with a weapon that can collapse all the status effects into a single blow. Harmony can act as our expedite suffering and unleash a hollow purple onto any high status stack targets. Now let's talk about our companions. We will be touching upon two companions in particular, the Helios Prime, which is Hairless Persian's favorite, and as always, our best boy, which is my favorite, because why wouldn't we want to use the absolute strongest fucking primer nuker in the game? I mean, come on, get it through your head. The Helios Prime. Banshee Light, a personal favorite to the second half of my heart in Arabian Blood Brother. The Helios scans enemies into your codex, and after fully scanned, Helios will expose weak spots for you to poke at. I mean, who doesn't like easy weak spots garnered? See that spot there? Shoot the absolute fuck out of it. Okay, chill out, you void-touched orphan. They're dead. Now let's talk about the best boy, our Mecha Hound of unadulterated destruction. By combining the synergies between Manifold, Momentous, Contagious, and Vicious Bond, we are able to adapt our ability precepts with our weapon elements. This in turn creates one of the most wild interactions in the companion world, as the Mecha Hound becomes our very own mecha set without having to sacrifice any of our mod slots for the mecha set. Yes, you heard that right. The Mecha Hound is the mecha set incarnate. Not only will it proc an absolute shit ton of status effects for you, but it will literally eviscerate level cap enemies. Pair this with the Akaten weapon and you have a loyal companion who will kill for you. It will die for you, and it will lounge around the back room and look cute as all hell for you. So what are our final thoughts on Protea? Protea is an absolute powerhouse when built right, bringing insane energy sustain, damage, and utility to any mission. Whether you're melting enemies with destructive blaze artillery spam, stacking shield gating for survival, or unleashing devastating temporal anchor resets, this build ensures she dominates in high-level content. Mastering her ability rotation is key, but once you do, Protea becomes one of the most versatile and rewarding warframes in the game. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to like, share, and hit that bell to stay updated with all my latest warframe content. And if you want to take your game to the next level, join our community Discord. We're actively helping newer players learn how to 100% obliterate the Origin system. Our link's in the description. As always, this is the Demon Prince, and I'll see you in the Void, Dreamers.